And welcome to everyone who's joined us for this 3-day virtual science meeting on environmental and aerosol transmission of COVID-19. So my name is Jane Leakes and I manage the Newton Gateway to Mathematics, which is the impact initiative of the Isaac Newton Institute for Mathematical Sciences. As I'm sure many of you know, the Institute is the UK's National Institute for Mathematical Sciences research programmes and attracts researchers from all over the world. And of course, we are very much looking forward to welcoming some of those researchers back into the building very, very soon, if not this week. So the Gateway was established in 2013, and we would sort of describe ourselves really as a knowledge intermediary for mathematical science in the UK. And in a nutshell, really what we do is help to extend the impact of mathematics to all potential users. So that would include all other academic disciplines, business, industry, and the public sector. And some of the activities that we do, we conduct a lot of broad brokering and specific brokering, and we're very much in the game of developing relationships and growing scientific communities, and often connecting previously disparate fields and subfields to aid collaboration. And as part of that, we undertake extensive user engagement, communication, facilitating, translating to maximise knowledge exchange. The Newton Gateway to Mathematics has a key role in the RAMP continuity network, which is responsible for today's event. And the RAMP network is a UKRI funded project, and we are helping to deliver a series of meetings, workshops and virtual study groups that react to key priority areas in the UK's response to the current pandemic. The project is also guided by links with groups such as JUNIPER, which is the Joint Universities Pandemic and Epidemiological Research Programme, and the Isaac Newton Institute programme on infectious disease dynamics, infectious dynamics of pandemics, which, as you know, ran last year. So these activities all aim to ensure relevance to current UK policy and will ensure engagement with the wider mathematical modelling and epidemiology communities. So before I introduce Mike, I'd just like to say that we have a speaker who's unable to attend this afternoon for various reasons. So this was on the rail talk, but what we're going to do is we're going to have a longer breakout session. Now the breakout sessions will be in Zoom meetings. This event that you're in at the moment is in Zoom webinar. You will be given further information about how to join the Zoom meeting for the breakout session, so please don't worry about that, and probably just look out for any messages and links in the chat area, which you'll see at the bottom of your screen. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Professor Mike Cates from the RAMP Continuity Network and also University of Cambridge. And Mike's going to say a few words about the work of RAMP and this event today.
Thank you very much, Jane. I hope you can hear me. So yes, I just want to say a few things about RAMP for those in the audience who may not know about it or what it is or its history. So RAMP had its conception in March 2020, so over a year ago, and its initial idea was to have a nationwide call for voluntary assistance with modelling the epidemic. It had and still has a steering committee under the auspices of the Royal Society, and it has and continues to receive help with management and data issues from EPCC in Edinburgh. Its initial plan was to be a voluntary programme between April and July of last year, and that did indeed happen, but many parts of it have continued in various forms, including this meeting today. So among the actions of RAMP, it did a number of things. One was to embed individual volunteers in existing modelling groups, mainly the groups of SPI-M, who are the epidemic modellers reporting to SAGE. We established a set of online forums and a rapid review team who were able to quickly help SPI-M and SAGE members with assessing important bits of literature emerging from around the globe. We helped set up the Newton Institute programme on infectious dynamics of pandemics. And the final thing we did, which is quite significant, was to convene a number of task teams, which were, there were 7 or 8 of those, some small, some large. And one of the larger ones was environmental and aerosol transmission. Now, of course, the people in that task team who you'll hear some of today, and Paul will say more in a minute, I hope, no doubt, many of them would have been working on these topics at that time given the pandemic conditions we were in, but I hope at least from their point of view, RAMP was helpful coordinating and perhaps getting more volunteers into these teams than would otherwise have been done. Across the task teams, so far we're aware of about 40 papers or reports which have been submitted or published, and various other outputs from the SPI-M teams that had RAMP volunteers embedded in them. Alongside code base and red teamwork, quite a lot of work was done by RAMP on Neil Ferguson's code, for instance, to help establish its scientific credentials, if you like. Of course, there have been outputs from the Newton program and about 100 rapid reviews and crowdsourced reviews on the forums of several hundred further literature items. So the current incarnation of RAMP, as Jane mentioned, is the RAMP Continuity Network. So what we did with the task teams is we encouraged them to find their own continuation support. The endeavor was too big, certainly, to go with a single bid to the research councils. Many of those involved in the environmental and aerosol transmission task team did get follow-up funding from UKRI. But RAMP itself has a relatively modest grant, which has three functions. One is to pay for a staff member at the Royal Society to help with policy landing. So that means any policy relevant results coming out of workshops like this or other activities will find the right point in government at which to be delivered to have an impact on policy. The second thing that the Continuity Network was to fund was for the Rapid Review Group, which is now led by Robin Thompson from Warwick. And then the third thing, as Jane has mentioned, is we have funding delivered via the Newton Institute and the Newton Gateway team for about 25 meetings in the next year or year and a half. Virtual initially, physically we hope later on, 1 to 4 days duration, and with a choice of topics which is intended to be responsive to policy, shifting the policy landscape, but also to the way the science is moving. And so we welcome suggestions from all quarters as to the kind of topics we should be addressing at these meetings. Last week we had a really very good meeting on the evolutionary implications of vaccination. So that was to do with how new variants are more likely to evolve to escape a vaccine when you have a large number of infected people, some of whom are vaccinated. This week, of course, we have this meeting, Environmental Aerosol Transition. The next one scheduled is for late May, which is Human Dynamics in Small Spaces and or Urban Analytics. So this is modeling the behavior of people and in a less intimate sense than actually how they cough, for instance. And then we're hoping for another meeting before the end of the summer on estimating the generation time. But as I say, we welcome any suggestions and ideas for further topics. So I think that's all I need to say about RAMP. The specific task team on environmental and aerosol transmission was led by Paul Linden and Chris Payne. And I will hand over now to Paul, I think, or Chris if preferred,